I'm super excited to introduce a brand new PhD program in the Department of Management at Clemson University, the Executive Leadership PhD program. Today, I've got some distinguished colleagues, and I want to give a big thanks to them. First, we've got Lori Tribble on the end, entrepreneurship professor, Wayne Stewart, international business strategy professor, and Kristen Scott, organizational behavior, leadership, among many other things. My name is Craig Wallace, and I also study organizational behavior and leadership. Today, to introduce this program, we've got 5 big topics that we want to hit on. The first one is research. Then we're going to follow that up with a little bit about the program structure, our world-class faculty, how we share research insights and discovery, and finally, what can you do with this degree when you graduate? First and foremost, though, let's talk about research. So we all know a PhD is a research degree. Doesn't matter really what field you're in, that's what the degree is about. We all do research. A lot of people think our primary job is to teach, and while that's very important, the PhD allows us to make new, novel discoveries that we share with the larger community. So with this program, the Executive Leadership PhD, we're focused on organizations and leadership. So within those boundary conditions, so to speak, how do you all define or look at research, and how do you think that will impact the executives in this program? So as our program director, Kristen, I'll start with you.
To me, workplace research is often about identifying patterns or trends and hopefully getting to the root cause of those patterns. And for me as an organizational behavior researcher, I spent a lot of my career looking at patterns of dysfunctional behaviors within organizations, particularly those perpetuated by leaders and the outfall of that for organizations. So more recently, kind of in response to that decade of research, I have become more interested in looking at how we can design interventions or create programs that mitigate those kinds of undesirable behaviors. And I've learned that a passion of mine is really trying to help organizations create positive environments where their employees can thrive and flourish. And I also think that's one of the really maybe most phenomenal aspects of research is that you get to take what you're passionate about and translate that into a research model that you then use to identify, patterns and trends that you find interesting and worthwhile. And to me, that's also really the greatest aspect of research is that I can take those passions and use them for a greater good, and to use my research to share that knowledge with organizations, with leaders, with students who are next generation of leaders. And I think that's one of the really primary goals of this program is to help these executive PhD students to identify or build on their own passions so that they can translate that into their own research models and take that either back into industry or in an academic setting or whatever career path they choose.
Love it. Yeah, passion, impact, really important to get this going. Wayne.
And that passion needs to be translated into novelty in research from my perspective. Novelty being that you're either opening new paths of inquiry in the field, or maybe you're re-examining things that we thought we knew, which is often the case in international business where we learn that something that we think we understand that's been studied in a Western context doesn't necessarily apply in a different context. And sometimes, just in terms of thinking about research, you hear the 4 C's of evaluating a diamond, and I kind of like to think about the 4 C's of evaluating research. And the first of those is contribution. Are you making that novel contribution that's useful in the field? Is it compelling? Is it comprehensive in terms of addressing what we know? And is it concise in terms of telling a good story? It's one thing to have a great idea. It's another to tell a good story in terms of that research project.
Awesome. Lori?
So for me, research is all about finding a problem, working to analyze it, and then solving it, just in its most simplest format. And I think this executive program can really help us with that, because touching on what Wayne said, if we're going to find novel things to study, novel things to contribute to academy and industry, These executives can help us do that, showing us new business problems that need to be solved. So one of the things, for example, that I focus on is organizational dysfunction and misconduct. So these big misconduct events, think Volkswagen emission scandal or the BP oil spill, and then how organizations recover from that. I think these are perpetuated or either managed by executives. So working on these types of issues with executives currently in the business world would just be super exciting for me and would also be beneficial to them because it would show them ways that they can go about researching these problems in practice and figuring out how to manage and solve them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said on all these. I learn something every time that we're talking, hall talk or round table, something like this. And this discussion dovetails nicely with our overarching goal for the program is, not only to create great consumers of our research that can read the articles in all the Greek in the middle of them, as folks say, but also be great producers of this research to positively impact not only the existing literature, but real pressing business issues, as we've all spoken to. So.
Yeah, those are all really great research thoughts and ideas, and there are a lot of really good doctoral programs out there. We are all product of one. But this program is unique, particularly because of its structure and the student composition. And Craig, you've had a lot of experience with these types of programs. Would you like to elaborate a little more on what makes it unique?
Yeah, I'll start with probably our experience that we had as doctoral students. It's you can't work. You're expected to be there all the time. You're paid a pauper's wage, which is great because you're not paying for grad school, but you're expected to be there running studies, late nights, weekends, and so forth, and that is not necessarily the case with this program. Right? This is a hybrid program in the sense that there's some online components, there's also the face-to-face component. So you might be Wednesday morning dialing in or zooming in to a doctoral seminar for wherever you're at. You could be in Charleston, you could be in LA, you could be in Paris. Right? But then about once a month, 9 times a year I think, you're going to be here in Clemson face to face in this awesome new building that we have here for the Powers College of Business. And through that, you can complete a PhD that's every bit as rigorous as the one we went through, reading the same journal articles, understanding the same statistics and analytics procedure, taking comprehensive exams and so forth. The big question that I get from this is, do I have to quit my job? And the answer to that is no, you do not have to quit your job. That's the beauty of this program, getting a PhD from an R1 institution while maintaining your career. And later on in this, we'll talk about, well, what do you do when you graduate? Because there could be some pivots that you want to make. So that's kind of how this program works.
That's really interesting and I think well said. Wayne, you've had a really exciting career undertaking research in the area of cross-cultural issues. What are some of your thoughts about research and just what also will make this program a little more unique for these executive PhD students?
In addition to the structure of the program, which is rather different and much more flexible, I think, for these students, we also have a world-class faculty who have international reputations in their fields. They are recognized widely. They are hired to consult at organizations and the like. And so here today, we have Kristen, who does work in abusive supervision and employee well-being. Craig does research in leadership and motivation and organizational talent. And Lori does work in entrepreneurial considerations and leadership. And my research has also addressed some of those considerations, both in entrepreneurship and in international business. But there are a lot of people that are not here today who are also part of this program who cover fields and strategy, entrepreneurship, organizational behavior, and human resource management, analytics. But despite their specialties, there's a common core in the interests that entail a focus on leadership, broadly defined in the macro considerations that are more organizational, or the micro considerations that are more focused on the individual, or somewhere in between. And so that focus on leadership and achieving organizational success through people is one of the defining features of the program.
Thank you. Lori, what are some of your thoughts on this?
Well, I think we have a lot of very great faculty here to work with. Honestly, that's one of the reasons why I came to Clemson, is to work with such great people. For example, we have Dr. Sheridan here, who works on leader behavior and positive emotions and how to translate that positive emotion into the workplace environment and make it a better place for their employees. And then we have Dr. Herschel, who studies similar things as I do, looking at organizational misconduct and how leaders can kind of mitigate the consequences of that after it occurs. And we have other professors who study leader rhetoric, entrepreneurship, leadership, as Wayne said. So I'm very excited to work with all these people, being a new person here, and I'm sure the executives in the program would be excited to work with them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it, but at the core of everybody and everything we're looking at, it comes down to leadership, and that's how organizations, teams, units, what have you, thrive or fail for one reason or the other, and that's why we decided let's really take a deep dive, but still keep it broad, on executive leadership for this program. Okay. So another question I get a lot is, well, how do we share this? Like what? Because one of our goals is to publish, and it's just a publish or perish mantra, right, for us. And we certainly we want to publish, and we do a lot. But the executives also in this program are going to want to publish and share their findings. So who wants to talk about our publishing process and how that's evolving, particularly with executives and some of the other outlets that we might have?
Sure, I can take that one. As I talked about earlier, I think oftentimes we undertake research to identify these patterns and trends and root causes, and if we're lucky, we are able to identify some of those findings and be able to get through the research process where eventually that lands in hopefully a reputable or high quality journal. And that's fabulous for us and for other academics because we're privy to that. But I think you mentioned earlier about it being a little bit of a Greek language to those who don't have this kind of a degree. And what's exciting now is that there are so many more avenues for us to be able to communicate out these findings and our lessons learned, even in real time, that didn't exist many years ago. And so I'm really excited for these executive leadership Ph.D. students to be able to capitalize on that so that they can take their research models and their findings and share that with the broader community, whether that's through social media or different news outlets. That can be a really rewarding aspect, is to be able to take what you've been passionate about, that you've taken this time and effort to get through the research process, the publication process, and then share that out to the broader community. So I'm really excited for these students in particular to utilize these avenues to bridge that gap a little bit more between academics and practice.
And the gap is really what we're trying to fill with this program, and it's long known as the knowing-doing gap. We over here in academics think, oh, we have all the answers. Industry has this other knowledge base, and there's something in between. And I've come to term this as pracademics. And the pracademics are our products from this program, effectively you. And the idea is you have this wealth of industry knowledge and experience. You come here, you're going to gain a wealth of academic and scientific knowledge and experience, and you can bridge that and be at the best point to solve critical business problems from a scientific method viewpoint. Now, one of the other things about sharing unique discoveries that I really want to talk about, and I'm going to ask Lori about this, are conferences and how we get to kind of try out our research before we submit it and have some fun and network with some other faculty from all around the globe. So Lori, you want to talk about conferences real quick?
Yeah, conferences were honestly one of the most fun parts of my PhD experience, and I would hope it would be for these executives as well. The idea is that you work on your research and you develop a paper out of it. You go to a conference and you present this paper to colleagues from all over the states and all over the world, depending on the conference you go to. And not only that, you get to get feedback about your ideas, yes, but you also get to network with so many other people. Such a wide variety of people go to these conferences that you can develop relationships with and really start research across the globe. And I think Wayne has some experience with that if you'd like to touch on it.
Yes, I've been to some conferences and met people who had, in the conversations, we discovered similar interests and worked on projects together. Data collection from the standpoint of international business can be particularly problematic. So I remember one circumstance where I met someone, he was in India, he was like, yeah, that sounds really interesting to me, I can collect the data, and so he did, and we were successful publishing a paper with it.
So I think these conferences can result in real-world applications, they can result in publications, and they can also result in many networking opportunities that you wouldn't have had before.
Yeah, which, when we're talking about these networking opportunities, one of the key aspects of the program is the notion of global scholars. So we'll have not only our Clemson faculty, but when said instructor of a course or professor realizes we need to bring in somebody else with expertise, we have the flexibility to do that. So our reach goes well beyond just Clemson, right? And these are some of the top people in a given field. And we can bring them here and they can maybe even sit on your dissertation committee. So coming back to this idea of pracademics, right? That's kind of our undertone or marketing line, whatever we want to call them for our graduates, right? And there's a burgeoning or opening career path that we're seeing in universities where pracademics are sorely needed. And I want to turn and talk a little bit about career paths here. Okay? I've placed some folks at other institutions where I led these programs to other fantastic universities. And business schools and administrators, such as myself, we're after them. We want to gobble them up, right? And so this is a career pivot, if you will. You might have had a 20, 30-year career in industry, and I really want to go back to the university setting and give back. This program will allow you to do that in different professor roles, such as a clinical professor or a practice professor or professor of practice. Have different names about the same thing, but think of the experience that you've had in industry with the stories, the examples, everything in your head that somebody, frankly, like myself, not going to possess because I've been in academics my whole life. Business schools in general are gobbling up these graduates. And so it offers you a chance to pivot if you want. It also offers you a chance to put some rocket fuel on your back and shoot up the corporate ladder or open a consulting firm, what have you. I'm really excited about those career paths. That's just me, but I'll throw it to the group here because I'm sure you all have ideas as well what you can do with this degree.
Yeah, I completely agree with Craig. This is a degree that allows you to do multiple things. It allows you to go up in your company. It allows you to work in the university setting if you want to. We all know that our students, especially at the undergraduate level, love that experience. One of the things that us lifelong academics have to deal with is students asking us constantly, well, do you have experience doing this? And okay, no, I've never been the CEO of a company. However, I have researched these CEOs. So fortunately for these executives, they won't have to say that. They can say, yes, I have, and this is what I personally experienced. And our undergraduate students eat that up. They love it. So I think this is a degree that allows them to do many different things.
I agree that experience is really beneficial in terms of teaching. I think it's also really beneficial in terms of research. We talk a lot in our research field about rigor versus relevance. And this experience is helpful in terms of identifying research topics that are really relevant for businesses. And we can provide instruction on the rigor, but it's the relevance ultimately that is making a difference.
Well said, well said. Well, I think this kind of concludes it. I have one more question for each of you, and I do want to thank you again for doing this. What's one thing, real quick, comes to mind that you're most excited about with this program? We'll start with Kristen here.
For me, I think I'm really excited about the knowledge and the energy that these executive PhD leadership students are going to bring to the table. They've been living many of the issues that we research, and I think the potential for us to create mutually beneficial synergies between faculty and these students is an amazing and I think really important opportunity. So I think I am most excited about us being able to learn from each other.
I agree. The synergy that I was talking about in terms of rigor and relevance and the experience factor and the perspective of that experience is what is exciting to me.
And I think for me, it's about working with someone to solve real-world business problems. So the most rewarding part of my job, I think, is being able to do something that is then applied to industry. And I think working with these executives will do just that. They'll be able to take what we teach them here and be on the cutting edge of research and apply that to practice. So I think that's very exciting.
Yep. And for me, I kind of echo all that. A little more selfishly, I look forward to learning a lot from these students because they have so much to offer. Cool. Well, thank you all for this. We look forward to seeing y'all, and hopefully you take the time to click the little button there that says apply.